Okay, bon atchil. It's taka a short sikha, but it's not that short because it's not so many ha'aris. So, but anyway, one of the things that we know that the Rebbe was pushing with people about, we want Mashiach now, is that people were scared about Mashiach's times. What were they scared of? They were scared that they have all these wonderful things, and they'd have to give it up. They'd have to give up their houses and their money and their this and their that and the other. This is in the 80s when the Rebbe used to speak about we want Mashiach now. And the Rebbe said, I don't know if that much was Lubavitchers. Lubavitchers, it was more internal, and the Stam and Weltishet was more begoli. But people are scared. I have all these things. I remember even the Rebbe saying an interesting point. Except for the Rebbe's explaining about all the gashmias will be taken along, the houses and the this and the that. He said something like, my contacts, I have contacts among the goyim and so on and so forth. I don't think that Rebbe Mamash used the word friends, but something like that. How can I give that up? And the Rebbe said by the Fabrengi, you're not going to be giving it up either. B'diuk, how that's going to work, I don't know. So the Indian the Rebbe's chikach is that when Mashiach comes, we won't have to give up anything in Gashmis. Here in this sikha, the Rebbe is going to put forward something even more. That it's actually part of Mashiach's times is that everything should be successful in Gashmis. It's not like a side thing. It's a schar, it's a teitzah, it's this, it's that. Where the Rebbe is going with this is that the whole approach is that Mashiach has to permeate the world. The Gilui Elikus will permeate the world so powerfully that even the Gashmis will be transformed to be perfect. I'm giving you a lot more of what it says in the Sikha, but it's a very reich word.
But I'm trying to understand you.
Wait a second. Let me just mention one point. When everything was perfect in Gashmis, when Adam Rishon was here, before the Chet Etzadas, it was because the normal way how the world worked was the way the Eibishter wanted the world to work. And it fit in with Hashem's plan. And that's why everything had geklappt in Gashmis. It ran, it worked, there was no hiccups in Gashmis. When Mashiach comes, it'll be even more so that the physical world will be joined with the Eibishter. And everything will work in the most perfect way. So one of the expressions of Mashiach's times is that the Gashmis of the world will be perfect and even more than perfect, because it's so connected with the Eibishter. That's going to be the approach. That's where the Rebbe is going to take us with the Sikh. Where it says in our parsha that the Yivul of the Aretz will come out. So in Teres Koyanim, also known as Sifri, it says, that's the way it's going to be when Mashiach comes, that the world is going to, or as a schar of our Torah and Mitzvos, it's going to be the way it was in the times of Adam Rishon. On the very same day that it's planted, Talmud Loimar Zeicher Asa Nifloisav. So he has a very interesting touch over here of Zeicher Asa Nifloisav. When Adam Rishon was first put on this earth, when the world was first created, so he made a Zeicher for the Nifla'os that's going to be later on when Mashiach comes. And what happened when Adam Rishon was here, before the Chet? V'cheinu Omer, Tatri Aretz Desha, Desha Esav, Malamed Sheboy Bayom Shoyse Nizras, Boy Bayom Oisa Peiris. So that's what he's saying over there in the Torah's Koyanim, that from this pasuk, Tatri Aretz Desha Esav, that immediately there was Esav as soon as it was planted. And that's the same thing that's going to be when Mashiach comes. So it's like a zeicher for the niflois, it's going to be when Mashiach comes. Then he says, another pasuk it says, V'eitz hasada yitin period. Lo kederach shevoisa achshav, ela kederach she'asa v'mei adam harishon, boi bayayim shu natua, boi bayayim oisa peiris, like the Chazal learn out, that took the very same day. Then another thing they say, Menayin sha'etz asid lias nechol, that the tree itself, the actual wood of the tree could be eaten. Talmud loymar eitz pri. So how do you learn it out from the words eitz pri? Im lalamid shuhu oisa pri alekvar nemar oisa pri. It says eitz pri oisa pri. So why does it have to say it twice? Eitz pri oisa pri. It should have just said eitz oisa pri. So from the fact that it says eitz pri and then it says oisa pri, that's two things. One thing is that the tree gives fruit. Another thing is that the tree itself is fruit. In kein lama namar eitz pri elama pri nechal afa eitz nechal. Another thing that it says about Moshiach's times, menayin sha'afi lo nisrak asidim lias oisim peiris, even trees that don't give fruits. Talmud loymar ve'etz hasada yitin pirya. It doesn't say that eitz pri will give its peiris, but any tree of the field, any tree in the field will give its peiris. Okay. V'hinei toichen zabaf los hanisim ma'il shiyah los begash misa'olam matzino b'dibri razal bekama mekaymes. L'dugma mesachtes ksubis, it says Asida Eretz Yisrael shetoitzi gluskois. Gluskois are translated as cakes, tasty little like rolls, lachmaniyot, very tasty. V'klei milas, woolen clothing. Asida chita shtitamer kedekel v'oila b'roish harim. We know a chita, just one stand of a chita grain is just like a short little thing, whatever. It's going to be as high as a palm tree, and it's even going to go up as high as the mountains. The Chazal even explain over there, so what's going to happen? So then it's going to be how are you going to cut the chita? It's going to be too high. It comes out that what you're gaining, you're losing by it. So the Chazal say, bring a pasuk that the Eibush is going to make that bends over. The winds are going to blow it over, you're going to be able to cut it. That will be like the two kidneys of a large ox. All these different yiudim of la'asad lavai. Tzarich lahavin betir amatz of the la'asad lavai kasav Rambam v'lo yiyeh ois eisek ala olam ela l'das Hashem b'lvad. That's going to be what people are going to do the whole time. U'lefichach Yiyu Yisrael Chachamim G'dolim V'yoydim Dvarim Hastumim V'yasigu Das Boiram K'fi Koyach HaAdam Shenamar Kimal La'aretz Deas Havaya Kamayim Le'yom Mechasim. It's very appropriate. We just now finished we just now had a Siyam Rambam along Boimer, so we're like learning the Siyam Rambam from Hilchos Malachim, the last Perek in the Rambam. Move on. Kasher Bnei Yisrael Yiyu B'matzav Kazeh Ein chashivless l'nisim neflois hagashim manal shiyu b'peiros haaretz. Ubol shoyna Rambam v'chol hamadanim mitzuyim ka'afer. Also, a lot of times it's brought down that mitzuyim ka'afer also means that they'll be as valuable as offer also. They won't have any significance. They'll be just like offer. If they'll be just like offer, so who cares about all these different things? So the Rambam himself explains what type of advantage there is. If we have all these things, nothing will stand in their way, nothing will disturb them. They'll be able to have a calm and clear mind to be able to learn Torah. So, therefore, we can understand why we need it. But the fact of why we need it doesn't mean that has to be the focus. Mikol makim lama herichu chazal kol kach b'maylos hamadanim agashim shiyu la'asad lavai ki ilu have davar miyuchad v'nayla b'yoyis b'fnei atzmi. Let's say, just to give a silly example, let's say someone's going to school or someone's going to work. I mean, we understand that the more comfortable the work environment is, the more work they'll be able to be getting done. But there comes a time, unless you're really you're a headhunter trying to get them to work for you, but you're not going to overblow too much. You know, the chairs that we have are ergonomic chairs, and we have these snack machines, and we have this, and we have that. You know, the main thing is, you're here to do the work. True, we're going to do everything to make it comfortable, but we're not going to spend our whole sales pitch on worrying about what type of chairs you're going to have, how many times you can go to the snack machine, do you have a microwave for the people to... That's not the main thing. Yeah, you'll say it because that helps you get the work done, but that's not the focus. The same thing, if we're saying, you're right, when Mashiach comes, we'll have all this Gashmias. Why? Because then we'll have the clarity of mind, we'll have the focus, we'll be able to learn Torah, we'll be able to do mitzvahs without anything being on our head. But don't make the tafel into an ikir. Don't make a whole tumult about all the kloyes will be like a chita, and the chita will grow up to be so high, and the Elon Yisrael will give out payers. And what's so gefährlich if the Elon Yisrael will not give out payers? I mean, will that really be such a big disturbance to my Torah learning? I mean, all these details seem to be like going over the top. Why is that necessary?
Actually, the Matan Sachar that the Torah מדברת this week.
That's why it's in this week's parsha.
Yeah.
No.
You're talking about like the pshat. You're talking about בימות המשיח, or like
so,
even בימינו that אם בחוקותי תלכו.
So it's both. It's both things. It's both about Mashiach's times, and now we're going to focus that it's b'chlal. He's talking about the schar for mitzvahs. That's what he's going to talk about now in Nois Beis. That b'chlal it's for the schar of Torah mitzvahs. V'hinei me'ein she'la zum hikshu b'mefarshim le'inyan schar mitzvahs hamavur b'parshaseinu im b'chokaisa telechu v'es mitzvoisai tishmoiru v'asisam oisam. So what's the result? But again, he doesn't just say, I'll take care of you, but he goes into detail. So therefore, it seems strange that the focus in the pasuk is about this something that's only secondary and not the main thing. There's a taich, I think it's a Chassidish taich, Nesati Gishmeichem B'ito means the Gashmias. So I'll give you the Gashmias in its times. Not so much the times, but I'll give you Gashmias. Mefarshim Biru Lefidas HaRambam. How does Mefarshim explain it? They use the Rambam that we just now quoted from before. That what is the reason to have Gashmias? So you should be able to have peace of mind to learn Torah. So, just like the Rambam explained concerning La'asid Lavai, so too the Mefarshim explain L'gavas Schar Mitzvahs B'chlal. Shekol Elo HaYehudim She'Parshaseinu Einon Iker HaSchar V'chol Chol HaToivus Shniskaru Kan B'Parshazum Hem Medabrim Me'inyan HaSoras HaMoinim Levad U'Retzoynei Loymar She'im Tishmer Mitzvahs Asim Memcha Kol HaMoinim Kimelchames V'Chaloyim V'Ra V'Yagon Ba'ifin Shetuchel Lav Hashem B'Lo Shemaneh Aval Iker HaSchar Shalom Habein Nisker Kan. So here they add one more point. The Rambam doesn't talk about our parsha. The Rambam just talks about Bechlal. Why do we talk about L'Asid Lavai being all these good things? Because it's going to help us be able to do a lot of Torah mitzvahs without any difficulties. But these Mefarshim are trying to explain both sides of the coin. First of all, why such a big emphasis on the Gashmis? But also the other thing. But tell us also about Ruchnis. Tell us about Olam Haba. Tell us about the Ruchnis to Gischar. So he says, Aval Iker Haschar Shalom Haba Eine Nisker Kan. Why? Kedei sheyavid es boiroi lishmoi v'loi machmas hascharahu ay mehiras ha'einish. Very interesting. If we would learn this Parsha Kipshutai, that this is a reward. We're telling you about a Gashmistic reward. So then you can have a question about why doesn't he tell me about the Ruchnistic reward? But since these Mefarshim explain, he's not talking about reward b'chlal. The Torah doesn't want to talk, at least not here, about rewards. Why? Because he wants someone to be Ovid Lishma. He doesn't want the person to be Ovid for the reward. Since he doesn't want the person to be Ovid for the schar, so he tells him like this. We're going to take care of your Gashmis. We're going to make sure that you have everything you need when you do Torah mitzvahs, so you should be able to do more Torah mitzvahs. And I'm not going to talk to you about reward. I'm not going to talk to you about a reward ruchni, because I want you to do this, not because of Yiras Ha'einish, not because of the schar. I want you to be able to do this lishma. That's the way some Mefarshim learn Pshat in our parsha. Aval, Ladas Kama V'Kama Mefarshim, they don't learn like these Mefarshim, and they say that this is really the special the special reward that this parsha is talking about. Meduber parsha zu al dvar aschar al kiyum Torah and Mitzvos. So therefore, the question goes back to what he said right away at the beginning. Is this what it's about? Why do we talk about a gashmistic reward? Yeshloimar shatam shaschar shnisparish because who beikir yiudim gashmim movon behegdem bir ashayla lama herech hakosov betiur schar limud atoyra v'kiyum mitzvos ubefrat shetachlis ha'avoide yavoide l'shma al tiu kavodam shamshus haravam nasla kabel pras like we have in Pirkei Avos al havoy kavodam shamshus harav shaloyam nasla kabel pras. So the question is, why is it B'chlal have to talk about the schar? Why does it have to describe it and so on? You know why? Because we're not dealing with certain special individuals. This type of way of Tiu Kavodim Shamshon Sarav Shloim Nasl Kabel Pras, the Rebbe always says, Pirkei Avos is Mil de Chassidusa. Mil de Chassidusa means Lifnim Mishur Sadin. And like we're going to see soon from the Rambam, this type of idea of serving the Eibishter just because the Eibishter wanted us to do it, that's for high people. And the Torah speaks al arayv tedaber, speaks to the majority. For them, you got to talk about rewards. That's where at least we have to begin with. And then he'll eventually come to Lishma. So also I think the Rebbe is medayik. The expression is la'olam. Why is he using the expression la'olam? Because this is a constant thing. This is a normal thing. This is the way every person starts off their life. When they start off as a child, they don't start off serving and doing Torah mitzvahs because they understand that it's important to do a mitzvah. They started off because of the schar. They started off with the reward and so on. So he says, he's quoting the Rambam, when their mind increases, when they grow, when they mature, so then you start telling them that the real way to serve the Eibishter is because of the mitzvah itself. So that is the simple approach. That why does the schar have to be explained? Because we're talking about the average Jew. The average person or the majority of Yidden need to know that it's going to be good, that they'll get good and they'll get rewarded when they do the Torah mitzvahs. That's concerning whether the Torah would have told us a schar that's begashmius, or if the Torah would have told us a schar beruchmius. You promise the kid, you promise the person that's not mature yet, you tell them you'll have a big chelik in olam haba. They can appreciate that also. But then there's a person that doesn't even appreciate that. That's going to be the next piece. Then there's a person you got to tell them, let me hear what's going to be in this world. They're not looking forward and saying, I can't wait till I'm going to have an extra portion in Gan Eden. Everybody appreciates Gashmis. At least the majority of people appreciate Gashmis. So therefore, you got to speak about things that they can relate to, the physical world. And then, now he's going to go to the next step. So our parsha, he's saying, is talking about schar now. Then there's also the idea about the schar la'asid lavi, but derech zu yesh levayir gam benegei la'asid lavi. Sherazal mafliim azman de la'asid lavi benisim v'niflois begashmi sheyiu oz, like we had at the beginning of the sikha. Ki, what's the ma'ila of it? Because gam la'asid lavi lo yagia kol echad ve'echad tekev la'asaga niles b'schar ruchni. Even after Mashiach comes, it's not going to be that all of a sudden we're going to become all tzaddikim gemurim and we're going to appreciate ruchnias and want to serve the Eibishter only because of the Eibishter. So what do you tell them? Okay, You are now on a level where what matters to you is Gashmias, so you will have Gashmias. That's what we promised them. Even after Mashiach comes, it's similar to what the Alter Rebbe says actually in the Geras HaKodesh, or in Kudrash Achron, I don't remember right now. He speaks about that when Mashiach comes, we're still going to have to learn Nigla. Why? Because let's say you're going to have to shecht. It's never, no person was ever born that could be a shoichet as a von sich allein, that he knows the dinim about what happens if it gets caught and what happens if the knife is not sharp enough. You're going to have to learn Nigla.
לא יהיה רע, לא יהיה טומאה, לא יהיה...
אף על פי שלא יהיה רב, לא יהיה טומאה, we have to know if that's which tkufa. But maybe that's only the second tkufa, not the first tkufa. But even then, there's certain halachas. And the halachas have to do with knowing how to pull the knife and how to sharpen the knife and so on. These are things that you have to train. So in a similar way, it looks like the Rebbe is using like a similar lashon to what the Alter Rebbe says over there in the Geras HaKodesh, that the people are not going to be all of a sudden, everybody's going to have Avad Abba to the Eibishter and serve the Eibishter with a Eifn of Lishma. The Rebbe in the Ha'ara 23 explains also another thing. Since we need to have, forget about the time of Mashiach, we need to have achakaloi b'chol yom shiyavim. We need to have that we are always awaiting Mashiach's coming. Now, some people are at a level that they really can't wait to get all the ruchnis of Mashiach's times. But most probably the majority of people don't appreciate that. They don't appreciate that. What's going to be your selling point? How are you going to convince them to want to have Mashiach? So you got to tell them, here's a chaim. There's not going to be any wars, there's not going to be any hunger, there's going to be everything's going to be good, etc., etc. So this is also part of why we have to be told that when Mashiach comes, everything is going to be so wonderful, to help us be mekayim this inyan of achakaloi b'chol yom shiyavik kol chalafum shiyuda delay. Some people will do it because they appreciate what Mashiach beruchni is about, and some people will do it on a lower level. The Rebbe says, diuk in the lashon the Rambam, that lo nisavu hachachamim li'moisa Mashiach for the tanugim gashmim. He says also other things, but in other words, it comes out that the Chachamim appreciated more of Mashiach's times. People are not necessarily on the darg of Chachamim, so they are going to have it on their level. To them, you go to Yidam Mfzoim, you explain to him Mashiach on a level that he can relate to. You're not going to have any worries, you're not going to have any problems, etc., etc. It's not going to be a war in Ukraine. Whatever is bothering him, it's not going to be COVID, it's not going to be monkeypox. These are things that concern him. This is the thing that he explained to him. Derech Agav, anders Derech Agav, the Rebbe once said, I think, that we've come to such a level where even children, even though it says that only Chachamim are going to be on that level, that they're not Nesavel and Moisha Mashiach because of the physical things, but kids are in this generation, you could explain to them, or you could be more with them at Shukif for Mashiach because of the Gevaldike Inyan of Mashiach Beruchnis, not because they'll have a lot of candies or whatever. I don't remember right now where that's it.
Related to the Yom Yom that Mitel Rebbe, or one of the Rebbeim, asked, when he was a child, he asked his father, why Hashem revealed himself only to Avraham Avinu, not to me. So therefore the Rebbe said,
see that
why
even a kid,
they said this story because
to everybody, because even a kid can appreciate that.
Yeah.
So in that sikh he also spoke about we got Mashiach's times also. We got the name of Mashiach.
No, from this story, the Rebbe said
that all kids, that a kid can have that type of appreciation. Yeah. So the Rebbe says this is all a nice general explanation, but he's not happy with this explanation. The main point is because then it comes out that this explanation is only for certain people. There are those people that are on a level that they don't appreciate the ruchnis, and to them you got to sell the gashmis. But the Torah was told to everybody. The Torah was written for tzaddikim also. Aber lechoire bir ze ksas dochokum, shari parshas b'chukoisai, v'chein kol ha-parshas b'Torah shebehem nisparsha haftocha al schar mitzvahs, nemru lechol Yisrael, gam le'elu shem bedargen nailas b'avois Hashem. ולפי הנ"ל נמצא שפרשה זו אין השייכת לאלו שיש להם השגה בשכר רוחני. To a tzaddik, to the Rebbe, doesn't talk to him. What do I care about Gishamim? Why should it matter to me? If someone's Mekayim, where it says in Pirkei Avos, this parsha doesn't talk to me, comes out. So the Rebbe says, so what? We know there's a rule. One of the principles, and we always have this expression in Chazal, ha-Torah ala roiv tedaber. And therefore, here also, the Torah is speaking to the majority. V'af shebaklal Torah ala roiv tedaber, but still in all, mistaber yoyse lefarish ba'ofen shehi shaykh lekoil va'oidzois. Not just it's better to explain it that way, but shebetach yesh ezel limit b'zeh gam l'miut. Now another thing. Now the Rebbe is going to take it even deeper. Based on what Chassidus always explains about Mechukosai, that it's talking about from the word Chakika, like the Alter Rebbe says in Lakotei Torah. So we're really talking about the beginning of the parsha, the opening words of the parsha is really talking about a very deep commitment to Torah and Mitzvos. Some of the Torah and Mitzvos commitment is in a way of engraving, like we'll soon explain. A person like that, you're telling him, it's like a stira mareish l'sefer. You're talking to a person that's doing Torah mitzvahs, it's really part of him, and him you're telling, I will give you rains. It says, Zois v'oid, b'bir, akasvim b'chkois telech, was mitzvah seit ishmoiru, was yisam moisam, pirch razal, v'hu pirish Rashi, dahainu lias amelim b'toiram, v'lo yoid, al sha'amul b'toiram, nas lishmer v'l'kayim. That's Rashi says in the next part, where it says, Ves mitzvah seit ishmoiru, so he says, the amelim b'toiram has to be in such a way that you're doing it lishmer l'kayim. V'nimtza she'ikar kasav zeh, koi b'limud ha'toira v'kiyum mitzvahs, lo yal derech haragel. We're not talking about your average person. El b'dargen nailis she'limud ha'toira v'kiyum ha'mitzvahs. Limud m'toich amal. V'chein shmira v'kiyum m'toich amal. It's not just his limud ha'toira is with a lot of effort, but also even the way he's keeping Torah mitzvahs is also in a way of amal. B'frat l'fi ha'mevur b'sfarim, here he means l'chutei Torah, b'pirish b'chakois al derech ha'remes, shu meloshen chakika. V'hainu shalimud ha'Torah v'kiyum ha'at mitzvahs kan, hu loy rak ba'ofen shel amal v'yigiyah stam, el ba'ofen shel chakika, sha'Torah v'mitzvahs chakukim b'libay b'chol muhusay, u'kemailus oisis chakika al oisak siva, shaloy rak she'oisak kika mu'chadis yoyser ma'even, she'en chakukis ba, because when you have ink on parchment, these are still two separate things. And the proof is, you can always scratch off the ink. Well, like we spoke before about the mezuzahs, they could fade, they could get ruined, the parchment will remain, the ink is gone. But by chikika, it doesn't work that way. But even deeper than that, when you look at Oisis HaChakika, when you look about letters that are engraved in the stone, when you're holding the stone, what is there? You're only holding stone. If you're holding a Sefer Torah, you're holding the parchment, and you're holding the ink that's on the parchment. It's two separate things. But Oisis HaChakika, there's no two separate things. Keloymar limud ha-Torah nirmaz kan, huloi rak ba'ofen sha'adam ma-Torah hem k'mashnei dvarim ha-mechubarim yachad, ela oidzoi sha'adam einoi mitzius, v'chol mitziusai hi ha-Torah shaloimid. U'movin she'etzel adam kazeh shalimid ha-Torah ba'ofen shal chakika, so what do all these Yudim Gashmim have anything to do with him? Gam ha-mitzvah she'makayim ba'ofen ba'ofen kazeh she'choyt dereis v'chol mitziusai. The mitzvahs the Torah that he's learning is part of him. The mitzvahs that he's doing is part of him. It's who he is. Him came pashut she'etzlo and it teifus makim shum davar milvad Torah mitzvahs. Upshita shaloi schar v'yudim gashmim for sure don't have a tismakim. So in other words, bechlal schar doesn't matter to him. And especially physical material schar. It's like when a person was when we were a child or whatever, and our mother told us, if you eat vegetables, I'll put a star on your chart, or I'll write a mitzvah note to your teacher. If somebody's an adult and he eats healthy because he wants to be healthy, because he wants to be strong, because he wants to have koyach. So what? If somebody tells him, I'm going to write a mitzvah note for you to your boss, I don't know, because you ate your vegetables. He said, what are you talking about? I eat vegetables because of me, not because of the mitzvah note. And a mitzvah note doesn't matter to me. I don't care what my boss thinks about my eating vegetables. The same thing. A yid, that his Torah mitzvah is part of him, it's chakuk b'soicha, it's not two separate things. It matters to him, schar b'chlal, or it matters to him especially schar gashmi. Doesn't make a difference to him. So he says, "Vayitachin shel adam b'darga kazu b'avodas Hashem oimrim loy shebeglal ze shebechkois telech mitzvos tishmeir v'asisam ma'isam." So he says, you know what's going to happen? Yekabel schar v'nasati yishmeichem be'itam b'goymer v'chol ha'yudim ha'gashmim binyanim gufnim chulu. So the Rebbe has a question: how does it make sense? All these in Yom of schar. And the point that the Rebbe is going to bring out, like we said right away at the beginning, is to show that it's much more than an idea of schar. It's dafke because it's chakuk bi. Dafke because the Torah is part of me and not separate from me. And dafke because mitzvahs are part of me and not separate from me. That's why I'm here in this physical world. Part of me is here in the physical world. So it has to also affect the physical part of the world and the physical part of my being. And if it didn't affect the physical part of my being, it doesn't affect the physical part of the world, there's missing in this connection that I have with Torah. Amazing kind. It's an unbelievable approach. This is the expression. The fact that the physical world is changed, or my physical life is different, in the world of the physical, is a result of my connection with Torah. It has to be. It follows one from another. Yeshloim Abir Bezem, Al Torah Nemar, Hu Chayecha v'Oirich Yamecha. Upirusha Eloi Rak Torah Mevia Chaim L'Adam B'Elam Haza B'Elam Haba. That's a simple title when we say it brings the person life. The Rebbe always likes to quote, it's Torah's Chaim, brings in the Friedrich Rebbe, it's a Torah directs us in life, gives us life, etc. Ela Shehi Hi Achayim Shel Kol Echad Ve'echad MiYisrael. V'hainu shebenegel leish Yisrael ein ha'Torah davar noisef al metziyusay ve'echad mishar pratim b'chayav elihi mehusay v'chayav mamash. The Rebbe in the footnote brings the famous story about with Rabbi Kiva and the Gemara. They said over there that just like dogim shebiyam, fish in the sea, they feel that as soon as they leave the sea, they would die. Their whole life is the sea. The same thing a yid feels and knows. This is the mitzvah of a yid, that the Torah is his life. Ha'adam nechlach l'kama chalakim, u'b'chlalos roish guf v'regel. Ha'roish hu makim mishkan k'chaysav ha'nalim, ha'seichel b'cholu, v'chein ha'chushim der'iyah v'shmiya cholu. V'aguf, that's a step lower. So just like physically it's a step lower, it's also spiritually a step lower. Hu klei u'mishkan l'midas shabbai v'kaytz b'zeh. V'ilu b'raglayim, that's even lower physically. So spiritually it's lower. In other words, in the heart, you could tell a person's midas versus, let's say, an animal's midas. And definitely in the brain, you could tell the brain of a person over an animal. In the walking, you tell a person walked, an animal walked, they're doing the same thing. It's not a big difference. You don't see the milas ha'adam. Amnam kolzo b'shayches l'koiches pratim shelo adam. Avol etzem achayis hanafshi sheloi. Being alive, that the body is alive, shulamayla makoiches pratim. It's not the seichel, it's not the midas, it's not the koyach hahiluch, it's not the koyach hadibur. It's just the etzem davar that the body is alive. You don't say the head is more alive than the heart, or the hand is more alive than the foot. Nimtza b'chol haguf b'shavim meroishe v'adragloi. And the Rebbe brings that says also concerning Oigmel Chabashon. It says that there's a shear on Yom Kippur of Achilles Kikeseves, like a date, because that's going to give the person chayis. And it says it doesn't make a difference whether it's a small person or an average person or it's Oigmel Chabashon. Why? Because when it comes to chayis, not strength or walking or something else. When it comes to chayis, there's no difference in chayis of a tinnik ben yoimai or oig melech habashim. And therefore, a keseves helps the chayis and gives the chayis of a person whether he's an oig melech habashim or whether he's a small person. It's because chayis is equal by everybody and in every part of the body. V'tam hadavar lefi shechayis hanefesh hi mechusay shel ha'adam v'lechein nimtzas b'chol nekuda v'nekuda shel haguf b'shav. The Rebbe says, "Val derech." It's an emphasis. It's only al derech. Sipur HaGemara over there. L'gabe Vespasian, that Rabbi Ben Zakkai came before him. That they told him good news over there that he was going to become the Caesar of Rome. L'gabe Tainuk shebenefesh. We find the Tainuk that there is by a person's nefesh. Shepoil gam ala al ube'ekev sheberegel. It affects the heel of the foot. Shmua toiv the dashen otzam, that the actual bone like swells from it. That's why he couldn't get up his sandal off. Lefish ha'tainug u'mahus ha'nefesh. Tainug is not like intellect. It's not like speech. It's not like walking. It's something that has to do with the entire nefesh. V'lecheinu nimtzo poil b'chol adam afil ad afil la'kevoi. V'yeser al kein ha'echacha v'abchina im davar mesuyim mikoyroi ha'chayis shim hus ha'adam. He mezeh sheba l'dei gilui loy rak b'koiches hanaylim shaloi elagam b'koiches hapchusim ad la'okim shebereyo. He's saying a very important point. How do we know if something has to do with the essence of the person or something is just one of the details, one of the koiches hapratim? He says, does it come revealed in the okim? Does it come revealed in the heel or not? Me'ein dugma l'davar. Adam hamizboinen bedavar hamevil de simcha. Harei aichacha lezeh sha'simcha chadra b'chol mehusay v'usameach be'emes. Hi kasher ha'simcha misbatas loy rak b'machshavte v'diburei ela gam b'maisav ad l'rikud b'raglayim. That shows that he's really sameach. That even comes down the lowest thing. A person loves to do mitzvahs. He's going to run to dvar mitzvah, rotzel dvar mitzvah, and so on. When it comes down even to the lowest part of the person, so then you know that it completely took over the person. שהגילוי והביטוי של זה שהתורה היא חיוסי וכל מהוסי של האדם היא כאשר התורה פועלת ומשפיעה לא רק על עניונים נשמסי, עניונים רוחניים ונעלים, אלא גם בעניונים גופניים ובכל עניוניו הגשמיים השייכים אליו. אם השכר על לימוד התורה לשמה היה רק שיזכה למעלס רוחניים ועניונים נעלים, אין כאן ביטוי שלם שהתורה היא כל מציאוסי. It could still be he's one thing, the Torah is something else. It's not true. Oisachika. Ki aschar hu k'may tetzah tivis me'eska Torah shaloi. Shalachein hu schar ruchni tmuras avidasa ruchnis. Which is what a lot of Mefarshim say. Torah is a spiritual thing. Mitzvah is a spiritual thing. The schar should be a spiritual thing. So then you don't know that it has anything to do with him. I did ruchnis, I bring ruchnis. Avakasha nishpoim like Tovis Gashmias beglala v'dasa ruchnis b'Torah mitzvahs nasati gishmechem beita am beitz asad goimer azay nira v'nikir sha'Torah mitzvahs einam rak limud v'asiya hanisafim al mitziyusay el kapanim rak prat b'mitziyusay el ha'Torah hikol mehusay v'chayusay v'lechein ha'esik ba mevi toiva v'tielus b'chol inyonav gam b'inyonav agashim do'el mahazim. But the question is, I'm not in charge of Olam Hazeh. Why is it going to affect all my Yonim and Olam Hazeh? I'm not in control of Olam Hazeh. So that's what we're going to explain. But the Eibishter is connected with the whole Olam Hazeh. And since the Eibishter is connected with all Olam Hazeh, and Torah and Mitzvah is connected with the Eibishter, so if this is my entire Mitzvah, so everything I come in contact with in this world has to be permeated with Torah, which is with the Eibishter. And that means that everything in the world runs the way it's supposed to work. But the like the Rambam says at the beginning of Yad HaChazaka, anything good, anything positive in the world, including all these Dvarim Gashmim, that you have these huge type of chita, and you have these amazing things that Elon Isaac will give the fruits, and the wood will be able to be eaten, and all these things, all these milas in the Bria, all come from the Eibishter himself. The Eibishter is perfect, so the entire Bria that comes from the Eibishter is also be'etzem, has his milas. So therefore, but we need to bring that out. Al derech zo b'negel l'Torah, shemi via toiva te'elas b'chal nimtzayim kulam, kol suge te'elas, hein ruchnias v'hein gashmias. Val pisa nimtza she'adrabe. It's not that the schar is also, we bring also schar gashmi for those people that don't hold by a level that they can appreciate a schar ruchni. Just the opposite. The schar gashmi is the gauge, it's the indicator that really this is his own Metzias. Mudgish sha'atoyre be'ofen shal b'chokoi sayim la shechakika sha'atoyre chakuka boy ad shenasis Metzius imamish. Al pi anal mavur gam ha'kesher da'ayudim gashmim sheb'psukim umar ezal b'negei los lovi. U'kamayim amar manal boy bayoyim shunatua boy bayoyim oisa peiris. Or asidat Yisrael sh'toitzi gluskois v'klei milos v'kiyoytz b'zeh that we said before. Ki davke ze moira al shleimus matzav b'nei Yisrael belimud ha'Torah v'kiyam mitzvah. It's an amazing thing. When you look at the tree and you see that, there's a nice woolen suit hanging on it, that's a proof that you're not learning Torah the way you're supposed to. That's a proof that the mitzvahs really permeated them, because everything involving them is in the most perfect way. That's unnatural. Yeah, we know there was a chet itzadas, but that's not the only reason. That arura adam bavarecha beitzav techlana gomer bezeis apecha toichel lechem. That's not the only reason, because it was like a punishment. Ela lefi shinyonei gashmias ha'olam einam kelim kiviyachol ha'ashpas hakadosh baruch hu. V'hainu shagam adam ha'loimet Torah mekayim mitzvos k'deboy v'nishbaloi kol toiv gam b'tzrochav ha'gashmim. The Rebbe says, "Ein zebot taken from yad." Just like you got to plow the field, it doesn't come right away. As soon as you plant, the fruit doesn't come up. Ki dvorav hagashmim einam yuchadim im shoshim beruchnius hashpas Hashem. It's an amazing thing. Even someone that does do everything, but it's like out of sync. The physical world and the spiritual world are not exactly lined up. So because they're not exactly lined up, it takes time, even when the person is deserving, even when he does Torah mitzvahs, for the spiritual good to come down in the physical world, that here in the physical world it should be good. But in other words, planting and then the tree growing, there's not going to be any delay. So since it's going to be totally one, so for the Eibishter, it's like immediate good. It's right away, no delay. Moving up in Mashal Ma'achiluk, Bechakika al Gabi Ha'evan, V'chakika Shima'ever Leiv. In Chassidus it says that even in Chakika, there's two types of Chakika. One is on top of the stone, in other words, it doesn't go through and through, and one is like the Luchas. What's the difference? They're both Chakika, but there's something deeper when the Chakika is Ma'ever Leiv. The Oisach Chakika al Derech Mashal Be'evan Toiv. It's not something additional, not like ink on parchment. Yeshlam dimyon v'shayches la'oisis aksiva shegam heim malimim k'tzas heim mashchirim as hatoyar shala evan toiv. Chassidus speaks about this, that if you have an evan toiv and you engrave in it, so then the place where the letters are engraved, it's not going to be as bright and as shiny as the rest of the stone, that it's smooth. So that shows that something, after all, the oisius is like something that's not really the stone. Physically, obviously, you can't disconnect them, but it shows there's not a complete joining. There are a totally different category. Dugmas oisach kike be'evan toiv, hainu shechakuk v'choyder b'soichai, loy ke oisach siva shein ala klaf, but still, aval eine choyder al teche etzem shaloi mamish. Al hareke shem sheitzel adam eine etzem shaloi mamish, kein hu gam bei titzah b'zeh, she'ene ba'oifen shechoyder ad l'chol dvar v'chetzayim shaloi. And therefore it's possible that the world won't cooperate. It's still possible that things are not going to run in the world the way they're supposed to run. Or at least, not immediately, like we said before. It will take time. Like we said before, as soon as you plant, right away it grows. Take it from Yad Mamish, but he has a cloud. Especially. Why do we call it Charus? Al Tikra Charus Ela Cherus. Because it's talking about that Cherus Memal Chamaves and all these things would have happened right away from Matan Torah if not for the Chet Hegel. Shechera Zutir Lasid Lam. The Gula Mitzvah Shlema, they were shifted Kenu and Meher and Meher.